Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sleep Conversations. My name is Shirley Weir. I'm the founder of Menopause Chicks, and I'm super excited about tonight's event because, if you followed Menopause Chicks over the years, we've done a lot of events with experts, but tonight, the experts are you. And specifically, we've invited some members from our community who are going to share their sleep stories, and then we want you to chime into and join the conversation as well. So please pop into the comments now if you like, and tell us where you're watching from. And if you want to go right ahead and share your sleep story, that will be great as well. So I also want to set the stage before we start the conversation tonight that sleep, while it is something we talk a lot about in the Menopause Chicks community, it's a big bucket. It's a big topic. And often when members come to the Menopause Chicks community, they're asking questions specifically about, certain experiences they're having, or maybe about hormone therapy. And I've found that over the years in speaking with members, I often I will say the foundational lifestyle buckets that we need to address. I say them really fast. And I'll be speaking with someone and I'll be like, oh, right, start at the top. And, we have to take care of how we eat, move, and sleep. And I say it really fast. And then I go to manage stress. And it's a great opportunity for us now to come back to this topic of sleep and really spend some quality time talking about it. So I want to thank you for showing up, putting your own name at the top of the to-do list tonight, as well as to our fellow members who have volunteered to come on screen and share their story. So this is how it's going to work. We're going to invite our members on screen, have them tell us about their sleep story. We're going to talk about some of the things that we have tried, solutions, some of the challenges that we've experienced, and whether or not that is still current, or maybe it's a solution that you want to share with one another, that, an experience. And then we want to jump to, what are some of the things, maybe we can have a brainstorming session. What are some of the things that are missing when it comes to women's sleep health? And I know that in many of the posts and conversations in the Menopause Chicks community, that will often lead to women actually waiting for a permission slip that it's okay to have this conversation with their doctor or with their healthcare team, right? So maybe it's conversation tools, maybe it's products, maybe it's just more education and information. So let's get started. And I love this format. I'm going to just move. Yep, worked. Everyone's here. Great. Whew. Marketing, technology, content. If anything goes south, just bear with us tonight. We'll be right back. But I want to welcome to this conversation Claire and Gina and Francesca and Karen. Thank you so much for stepping up when I asked for volunteers to have this conversation. Let's get started. We're going to do a round table, and I want to ask you about your sleep story. That can be what you're currently experiencing, or something that that you've navigated, a challenge that you have overcome. So let's start with you, Claire. What is your sleep story?
I'm not sure how long you want us to take, so I'm going to try to abbreviate it. But thank you so much, Shirley, for doing this, because perimenopause was a little rough. It was the night sweats, and I had super heavy bleeding, which is a whole other topic. But that's what mostly interrupted my sleep. And I just learned to deal with it. I was younger, so I was able to kind of push through, get through the day. But for something happened in 2019 that really took me down, really bad. So instead of going into step by step, my symptoms all at once, within the matter of 2 weeks, I had tinnitus, dizziness, brain fog, brain disturbances, severe headaches, burning bladder, blood in my urine, but no infection, vaginal atrophy, internal vibrations that felt like I was plugged in and on fire, stomach pains, heart palpitations, anxiety, depression, grief. Now, I did lose some family members, so there was grief in there too. And then for some odd reason, I had 1 week of diarrhea, which I'm sure depleted even more. And then it seemed like it happened one night. My sleep wasn't great. I was getting, about, 6 hours a night. But it was okay. I was making do. But one night I woke up at 4 a.m. to say goodbye to a friend that was getting on an airplane. And I went back to bed and it was like I was wired. I couldn't go back to sleep. So I thought, no big deal. I'll get through the day, go to sleep, tomorrow. And the next day I found myself laying awake in bed and was waking every 2 hours. Hadn't done that before. So I thought, okay, well, that was a fluke. I can get through this. And it was a solid week that I was not getting through it. And all of a sudden I was super disoriented, heavy duty fatigue, ran to my first doctor appointment, urgent care. He gives me Ambien and it didn't work. I got 2 hours sleep on Ambien, which everybody told me Ambien's the greatest. So anyway, that freaked me out. So it started my journey and I saw all different doctors because I really had to fight for it. And so that's my story. It scared me so bad. I had, it was May of 2019. So it was May, June, July of hardly any sleep. And at that point, I have to say, I almost was starting to be suicidal. It was starting to be like, this is not quality of life. I don't know if I can make it. My body's going to shut down. I was so scared. So that's my story, and I can share the answers later.
Yeah, that is an amazing story for you to share, and thank you so much for trusting us with your story. I'm curious about a couple of things. When you were, I hear the phrase wired yet tired a lot. Did the word insomnia ever pop into your head? Did you feel, why am I dealing with insomnia? Did you know what the definition of insomnia was?
Nope. It didn't hit till probably a month into it going, is this insomnia? So no, it was new to me.
Okay, so that has been some learning for our community over the last week. I don't know if you've been following some of our posts either on Facebook or Instagram, but I recently learned the definition of insomnia, and that can be any of the following: difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, waking too early, and as Claire mentioned, difficulty functioning the next day as a result of poor sleep. So let's go around the circle and then we'll come back and find out some of the steps that you took. Francesca, what is your sleep story?
Oh, it's a long one, but I'll try to keep it short. So my story began, I'm 50, I have no problem telling my age. I'm 56 years old. I ended up going through, I hit 40 and I don't know what happened. It was like an overnight thing. And for some reason, I just couldn't fall asleep. I was able to fall asleep, no problem. I never had any issues. And then, as you described insomnia, it started off with having difficulty falling asleep at night, then waking up every 2 hours, and then not falling asleep at all, like, functioning through the day, every day, brain fog, going to work. I just didn't know what was going on. So I went to the doctor. They prescribed me trazodone, which is a light med for depression. And she kept asking me, "Are you depressed? Did you go through any major stage in your life?" And I said, "No, I'm perfectly fine." So I went through a lot of different clinics, a sleep clinic. Then after that, they said I was fine. I didn't have sleep apnea. Then I was beside myself. I could not function. Had to drive to work every day. It was a 45-minute drive. I had the brain fog. I was just exhausted. And I found that I just could not get to bed. It was becoming a mental thing for me. So I ended up functioning for a good 7 to 10 years, trying to fall asleep. I took some sleep aids, and I thought, my sister kept saying, it's got to be hormonal imbalance. And I said, I can't. I still have my period. This doesn't make any sense. So about, when I went through menopause, I ended up taking hormone replacement therapy because I was having the night flashes, and it was horrible. I just couldn't stand it, on top of the fact that I was having difficulty sleeping. So I started taking the hormone therapy, and that actually helped. I started getting some solid sleeps, but every so often I would end up having these nights where I would just not be able to fall asleep, or I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and it had nothing to do with sweats, because I thought, oh, this is my solution. And here we are today. I am actually going through cognitive behavior therapy, and we'll talk about that, but I'm just starting to do something like that, learning about my sleep drive, learning how to function at night before I go to bed. And really, it's just every day I'm learning more and more of how I can improve my sleep. I'm an isolated incident, I guess. I can't believe I've actually lasted this long without that much sleep throughout the years. It's just crazy. I think if we could have more information on this, I think it would help other people, because sleep is so important. I never realized how much sleep is so important. And if you aren't able to sleep, it just makes you miserable. And I had some very, very bad thoughts, just like Claire. I'm going insane. I don't want to live anymore, because you just don't want to, you just can't thrive. I think it's a combination of maybe some sort of mental thing that I'm going through, or is it hormonal? It's a combination of both, but I'm navigating through it, and I'm going through cognitive behavior therapy, like I said, and it's through Mind Beacon, and let's see what happens there. But I'm learning a lot more, and learning about sleep cycle, and we'll take it from there. But I have to say that the hormone therapy did help with my flashes, so that's a plus. But I thought that was my solution, and it just seems to be this ongoing thing that I have. And I don't know, it could be mental, it could be physical, a combination of both, but
it's a bit
that's
like
my story.
It's a bit like solving a Rubik's Cube, isn't it? You get one side like close, and then you're like, oh, I've got something else I need adjusting. But I do want to say a couple of things.
Sure.
Thank you for sharing your story.
No problem.
You mentioned a phrase about, your health team saying you're fine. And I also hear that a lot from women. We are told we're fine when we're actually standing in front of our health professional, very unfine. And if there's anything that we do need to do, it's that we need to close that gap, that conversation gap.
Absolutely.
The other thing,
go ahead.
The other thing, Francesca, is you are not an isolated story.
I feel like
you are not alone in this journey. So I hope that we can make you feel that way and support you any way that we can. Karen, what is your sleep story? Oh,
sorry, just unmuting there. Yes. Interestingly, very similar. I am also 56. My perimenopause journey started with a burst of anxiety and sleeplessness. Very sudden. I can name the date, and I was terrified that I would never sleep again. That's where my mind went to, and so you set yourself up at that point to go to bed and be fearful of going to bed and falling asleep. And my former doctor prescribed sedatives, much as I think it sounds like has happened with others as well. And that worked for me for a while. But then she retired, and my new doctor, my younger doctor, was, no way, that's not a choice that you can use long term. Really? And so I worked with her to find some other strategies that worked for me. And I realized two sort of negative mindsets I had about the whole process was, if I had a bad sleep, then I would have a bad day the next day. And I had all those other, the brain fog and very similar to the previous speakers, but it took a long time. And I think I've got the idea that if I wake up and it's a bad, or if I get out of bed and it's a bad sleep, that it doesn't have to be a bad day. Then I try to just I called it to Shirley to, seize the day and try and get through everything that I was doing and not perseverate about, oh, I had a bad sleep. I had a bad sleep. So that was one. And the other one was, I didn't think I had stress in my life. I didn't want to say, I had already raised my children, and I had this tidy little career that I love doing. And I thought, I'm not stressed. That's something for other people. And it's not a term I would use for myself. And I found that without, I had the privilege of retiring and last year, and I found, that career was quite stressful, and it was a load off, from being able to give that up. And I realized I would have been better off if I had just acknowledged to myself, I didn't have to advertise it, but that I was stressed and that I was dealing with that. And it was okay that was part of the life I was leading. And I have, some other strategies to share later.
That is really powerful, Karen. We had a webinar last year, which I can share with everyone now, but it was called Sleep, Stress, and Sex, because you can't talk about one without acknowledging the impact of the others, right? So, I'm really glad that you brought that up. And the other thing that I heard in your story was about the power of self-talk and reframing and paradigm shifting. So that sounds very powerful and hopefully helpful to some of our members who are listening tonight. Thank you. Gina, what is your sleep story?
Well, I'm also 56.
Magic number.
There wasn't an age requirement for this. I'm 54, by the way.
Okay. So, and I'm a little new at this whole journey. This is just something that I have been experiencing about the last year. So about 3 years ago, I started experiencing very abnormal bleeding. So I went to my gynecologist. I have two practitioners that I see on a regular basis. I see my general practitioner just for the, day in and day out things. And then I see my gynecologist for special needs. So I go see my gynecologist. Oh, I'm having this abnormal bleeding. She's like, you know what? I'm going to put you on a birth control pill that, will regulate it. Okay. So about 2 years later, I go to my general practitioner and she wigs out that I'm on this. What? You're 54. You can't, you shouldn't be on that. Or actually by now I'm 56 because it was at the beginning. It was January. You shouldn't be on that anymore. She said, we need to get you off of it. I said, okay. So I stopped taking it. Right. It's my doctor. It literally catapulted me into menopause. I mean, just like cannonballed me right in. So within weeks, hot flashes, the depression was the main. I was just, whoa. I mean, felt so overwhelmed and just very stressed out. And so I go back to my general practitioner. She says, let's get you on something that will help with the mood. That's my first line of defense for you, which was paroxetine. And that actually helped with the hot flashes. So I'm in heaven now without hot flashes, basically. But now what I have always treasured my sleep. I mean, friends have been envious. You sleep the whole night through. I'm like, I go to bed at 10. I don't wake up till 7. It's paradise. And now I'll wake up 12:30 and it just feels like I've been asleep for 6 hours. I wake up at 4:30. I mean, luckily I can fall back asleep, but it's that break in the sleep where I feel that I haven't gotten a quality night's sleep.
Yes. And you know what quality feels like and looks like. So you're probably constantly comparing, the former years to what you're experiencing now. And that can be a bit of a mind trick too, right?
It just makes you feel so frustrated. Like you have, what do I need to do? And so I've tried a few things. Are we sharing that now or we're sharing it later?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I want to do like a quick round table. We're going to do like thumbs up and thumbs down in your screen. And I just wanted to acknowledge to your members who are tuning in to listen to your stories tonight. They're really identifying with wired but tired. Really happy to be here and just to also know that they're not alone by hearing what you're sharing. So thank you for doing that. When it comes to sleep, and I invite everyone who's listening to do this in the comments if you want to do the thumbs up or thumbs down, but I'm really curious And I'll tell you why. This is why I'm curious. I never identified with the word insomnia till just recently. In fact, my sleep story is it probably started late 30s, early 40s, waking up every morning. It's a little vulnerable actually to share this now. Waking up every morning at 3:30 and thinking, oh, I'm gifted. I can get up and go to work and get 3 to 4 hours of work done before my kids wake up. And that was the story I told myself until I ran completely into a wall and then through the wall and then realized, oh my goodness, like you're not gifted at all. You're actually not prioritizing your health. You're not taking care of yourself. And that Rubik's Cube, the stress and all the other things about functioning the next day were being impacted. So I learned something new every day in Menopause Chicks. That has been my recent learning, that this is in fact a definition of insomnia. So let's do a little bit of a poll. Currently, are you having difficulty falling asleep?
No.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, so everyone's thumbs up. Currently, are you having difficulty staying asleep? Currently, does any of your daytime function suffer as a result of poor sleep? That's good. We've got a lot of people participating, watching too. Does poor sleep happen for you more than 3 times a week? And has anyone received an official diagnosis of insomnia from their healthcare professional? Interesting. Okay. Okay, so now I would love to continue the conversation with each of you about some of the things that you have tried to improve or to enhance your sleep. Claire?
All right. Well, I was trying everything. So I was blessed with resources. So I bought a boatload of herbals, and my house looked like a drugstore. And anything I got wind of to try this, try that, it was all going in. Pop, pop, pop. But one day a friend, because it was a night that didn't sleep at all. And I was barely functioning the next day, but I was forcing myself because we were supposed to go to a concert, have a good time, having friends stay at our home. And I pushed through, but it felt awful. And my friend said, hey, I'm going to give you some gabapentin and Flexerol, because he had that from a accident he was in. And I said, honestly, this is being brutally honest. I said, I don't care if I live or die at this point, because I want to sleep. I want to sleep. I'm going to take this. I prayed before I took it. I said, God, it's in your hands.
Wow.
I slept 10 hours solid and woke up the next day going, what was that? Like, what just happened that was different? So I ended up going to a sleep doctor. He was fine with gabapentin. And he said, how much do you want? I'm fine with it. I have people who've been on it for years. I did use it because it was the only thing gaining my sleep back. I would gain with the gabapentin. I was taking some herbals, but the gabapentin allowed me to get 6 hours a night minimum. And I took that for about 4 months to get my energy and my strength back. And then I started to use that strength and energy to research what herbals are out there. So I'm not always on gabapentin, but I know I can have it there with the least side effects, because I was given 2 different antidepressants by other doctors and Ambien, and it made it so much worse for me. I don't know why, but I had very negative side effects to those things. So I've done a lot of research into gabapentin. There is a 2012 study that does show it helps menopausal women. So it's very interesting. But
Interesting.
yeah.
Thank you. Francesca, you mentioned cognitive behavior therapy.
Yep. So I'm starting that now. So basically, it's just a way of improving your sleep hygiene. I think I was always pretty good. I used to meditate at night. And so what it's allowing me to do is some breathing techniques. It's called box breathing. And then, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds, pause, and then breathe out. And then the next phase is going to be sort of muscle relaxation. So taking each part of your body and, going through that motion of basically relaxing the muscle and then tightening the muscle and relaxing. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but the first phase was really trying to set a sleep cycle. So basically, they're following my sleep trends, and I was logging them each night. And they determine what my sleep cycle should be. So my window should have been, at this time to this time. So based on my patterns, they felt I should be sleeping at 12 o'clock at night and waking up at 6 a.m. So I started doing that, and then I felt that I was having nights where I couldn't sleep at all, and I was just exhausted. And I said to my therapist, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And I was having bad thoughts again because I was going through that phase. And she said, toughen it out and try to do what you can. And then for some reason, I had some good nights. And then I've been since the time change, which really affects me. That's a seasonal thing. I seem to have that, I don't know, sometime in August and September, that's when some sort of change happens and I have a hard time falling asleep. And I noticed that. And since it kicked in, it's been happening again. But I'm interested in finding out that Claire used gabapentin because that was just prescribed by my mom for a pain specialist. That's a drug for pain specialist. So I'm interested in looking into that. So I'm going to talk about that later. But that's the only thing I'm taking and doing. And I'm taking a sleep aid every once in a while. I don't try to use it, but I find it gets me groggy. And if I don't take my hormone therapy, I'm done. So I need to take my progesterone and my estrogen. So that's where I'm at right now. I did mention earlier, I did a lot of different things. Like I've tried, I did the sleep clinic. I've looked at naturopath. I've tried many, many different natural forms, and that didn't help. So I think that this cognitive behavioral therapy is going to help me. I think a lot of it is now a mind thing. I think it was hormonal, but it's a mind thing. You don't want to associate going to bed and hating that. Going to bed, that's the place where you really want to relax. That's where you need your body to rest for the evening. And I think that's what I was going through. It's like I just don't want to go to bed, and everybody's going to bed, and I can't sleep. So just trying to create that atmosphere where when you go to bed, whatever you need to do, take the 30 minutes, relax, do the techniques, and try to follow the sleep window. So I've been doing that, and I've seen some improvement, some progress, but we'll see. So that's where I'm at today.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I am really intrigued and want to learn more about CBD. A bit of a timeout. I'm not a health professional. I'm not a pharmacist, but I understand a few members are Googling gabapentin right now. So it is a pharmaceutical, originally created as an anti-seizure medication, I believe.
That's right.
But there are a lot of medications that are prescribed in an off-label format. So off-label means that a physician can prescribe it for something else than what it was originally intended for. I say that because it's probably a good segue for us to just remind everyone when we get to that, here's how to have the conversation with your healthcare team, to say, I'm interested in learning about medications or what's on the menu of options for me to treat insomnia. And I'm particularly curious about those medications that have been developed and tested on women who are at my age and stage, right? So we have the right to put that forward whenever we're having conversations and asking what's available to us. So thank you for that little interruption. Karen, I'd love to hear some of the things that you tried.
Well, the first thing I highly recommend is retiring if you have that privilege.
Done that already.
It has been wonderful for me. But, it's interesting that I'm piggybacking on the previous speakers because sleep training was something that I had started to look at. And the idea that your room is just for sleeping and sex, and the other parts of your house are what you use during the day. And so now I read a real book instead of an iPad. I put the technology away an hour before or more before I go to bed. So I read a real book and I sit in a real chair and enjoy some of those old school ideas. And that has helped. And then when I do go to bed, I started this thing in the lockdown and just trying to be grateful for something that happened in my day, even if it was just loading the dishwasher. So I try and think of 3 things that work, that were successful during the day or were fun or, just positive. And then if the worries start to creep into my head, I know I've at least started off with a positive. And that's been really helpful and maybe made me better in my outlook in general. But the meditation as well, Francesca mentioned the box breathing and the body meditation where you relax from your feet up to your head, and some scripts that a psychologist gave to me that I can sort of read. And I did some meditation training with like thinking it's a ball. So you breathe out and you breathe in, and counting and singing and all the things that can just, occupy your mind. And I also found when I was going to bed, had these twitches. My arms and my legs were twitching, and sometimes my whole body. And I learned from Menopause Chicks Facebook group that magnesium might work, and that has done me wonders. That's really helped, and I take that every night now. And then, occasionally I've tried to take melatonin, and that's, if I get a few nights or that I just think, okay, this isn't going to. My husband keeps saying, you're going to fall asleep soon, someday. No. So when I'm starting to feel hopeless, then I do try that. But I think what I'm realizing in listening to Claire is that I haven't looked at that the natural remedy area enough. That would be something I would like to see more education in, and more interest from my part.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing up magnesium. That was one of the things that I learned on my journey, was that most of us adults live in North America can benefit from magnesium, and specifically magnesium bisglycinate, because it's very supportive of sleep. But so is progesterone, and so is melatonin. And so, there's many things that our bodies were so good at producing on their own for decades, and then all of a sudden we didn't get the memo that that the quantity was running low. So I think it was Francesca that mentioned like more education and awareness around that as well. I think Gina had to step away and take care of her new puppy. So we'll come back to her. I would like to include a segment of this conversation around impact. And if we could speak to, if you have any anecdotes that you can share about how poor sleep or even taking care of your sleep has impacted relationships, work life, your own personal life. I think that's important for our listeners to realize that they deserve to feel amazing. Right? If everybody could walk away tonight with that permission slip that you actually are not meant to suffer, and you do deserve to feel amazing. So let's describe some of the impact that sleep has had on our quality of life. Claire?
So I'm in a good place. I've done lots of 2 years of research. So now that cozy feeling that I used to feel in bed, that my body feels so good. I left off that my diet was really, really poor when all this stuff happened to me. So some of that was partly way too much sugar, processed foods. So that's all been changed. So I do want to preface saying that. And magnesium is a huge must-have. That's like a must-have in my life. I hand it out to friends like a gift. I hand out birthday present gifts of magnesium. But now that I'm getting this comfort back in my body of really enjoying sleep again, it's allowing me to watch my grandson. I'm 60, almost 60, by the way, so I'm the old one in the bunch. But it allows me to serve my family, do the errands that I want to do, just be there, be present too, be mentally present for my family and friends and whatever I want to do in life. It's really important. I'm just very grateful that that is returning back, that comfort of nothing aching in my body. I know that people could have different issues, like I did have stomach issues for years. That was another factor. I had to go after that. And I ended up finding out I did have H. pylori, which I hear also can interfere with sleep. So it's also gut health is super important. So now I'm in a place where my body just feels comfortable. I feel good in my skin. And so it has a very positive impact on the rest of my life.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Francesca, can you speak to impact?
Impact. So I was recently retired too. So that made a big difference. Although I don't think my job was as stressful as I thought it was. I loved my job, but I retired early just because I was going through a lot of issues with my family. My mom and dad became very sick. So I had to kind of step in and be kind of the caregiver there. So that was a little bit stressful. But as far as impact on my life, I mean, I can tell you that, there's highs and lows. I have good days, I have bad days, and I just learn to deal with it. And I know that I found ways to cope with it, and that there's days that there's months that I've had great sleep. Like I've had 3 or 4 months where I can sleep a good 6 hours, and I didn't have a problem. I thought, I'm on the right path here, and then boom, it hits me again. So I know that I can get there. It's just a question of addressing. Like I think the therapy that I'm going through right now is going to help me. Although I thought I had it all, I thought I knew it all. I thought, I've researched everything, and I'm going to actually speak to the stomach issues because it's funny. In the last year or two, I had a lot of issues with gut health, and so I actually was diagnosed with what do you call it? Now I can't even think what the name of it is, but it's basically I can't even think of it now. But sorry,
Okay.
it's just so I'm taking pills for that. I'm taking vitamins actually for it. I'm actually taking probiotic for it. I had to actually try several different probiotics, but this probiotic, you have to kind of figure it out. You got to try various ones, and this one's a very stronger probiotic, and it seems to help. And I found that when I'd wake up in the middle of the night, my stomach was killing me. I had a lot of problems, and and it's funny that it all happened right when I went through menopause. And I think that's one of the side effects, I don't know, that everybody most people, or some people go through, is just like, you get it all, like the flashes, the gut issues, and then the sleep. So I've addressed that. So I know that there's light at the end of the tunnel because I don't have the stomach issues anymore.
Wow.
And I'm not as stressful. I'm not as stressed, sorry, because I was going through, issues with my parents. And, I know that I can get the 5 or 6 hours of sleep and I'm good. So, life can be good. It's just you hit these roadblocks and then you kind of get all depressed again, geez, I'm going through this again. Why is this happening? But like I said, I think that, positive mentality and doing these cognitive behavioral therapy strategies, I think is going to help me. And I've noticed a big difference. So, try to enjoy life, like somebody said, just, have a day, spend time with whoever you can and volunteer, do lots of things that are fulfilling. And I think that just, keeps you going. Because I found that once I did retire, I found it hard to fill my days because I felt guilty being retired. So it's like, what am I doing? I need to be doing things. But I'm learning to deal with that as well. Like, it's okay to not have to run to work, get up and rush to work. It's okay to do the other, to enjoy life. So that's pretty much it. That's my
Yeah,
story.
it's interesting that you mentioned the word guilt because
Yep.
that's probably the reason how Menopause Chicks was born originally. I was, late 30s, early 40s, stressed, waking up every morning at 3:30 a.m. And the stress and lack of sleep or sleep disruption combination was leading me towards being the mother that I had no intentions of being. And then spending the rest of the day after I would explode, let's say in the morning, spending the rest of the day, curled up in the bathtub feeling guilty and thinking, why am I this monster? But not actually having the reflective capability at that time to peel it back and say, you know what, if I could take care of my sleep, I could stop this domino effect from happening. And that was, the impact that was having on my relationships, particularly with my kids. So guilt is a symptom of something else. But yeah, thanks for sharing that, Francesca. Sure. And Karen, I'd love if you could chime in on the impact that poor sleep can wreak havoc on our lives.
I think, maybe I was off on a little tangent. I was thinking more of sort of the strategies that I use to combat the sleeplessness. I saw this meme that was, 9 o'clock is the new midnight. And I, for a while, when I first started that sleep training idea, I was very rigid about it and I wouldn't go out and I wouldn't, the evening was meant to be followed through in this process of helping me to fall asleep. So that changed. And then I realized, I was missing out. So
the impact was to your social life.
Yeah. A few nights here and there of good times is okay.
Yeah. I hear you. Gina, I think Gina might be.
No, I'm here. I don't know if you can. There,
I've got your picture back now. Sorry about that.
Okay. No,
Gina,
that's okay.
I'm wondering if you want to just mention impact that poor sleep can have on your relationships, your work life. How did it impact you?
Well, I was feeling like I could never accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished in one day. I just felt so overwhelmed, and it was because I wasn't getting. I'm still not getting proper sleep right now. So I'm still trying to figure it out. But the magnesium has helped, and then I'm also taking CBD for sleep.
Right.
I have a neighbor that is. She owns a store here, and she is extremely knowledgeable and uses it for various things, and it does help, but for me that's masking what's really wrong. I want to find out what's really wrong. What am I deficient in that's causing me the lack of sleep, and then I'll get better quality sleep. So I'm looking into, I want to do some yoga before I go to sleep. I know that the breathing and yoga really helps you relax, and to Francesca's point, relax your muscles and whatnot. So that's where my journey is. I'm kind of in the middle of it right now.
And I love that you're bringing that up, because whenever we talk about impact, we have to talk about like positives and negatives. So we can say, poor sleep impacted my relationship with my family members, or, meant that I couldn't actually get through the afternoon at work, or whatever that is. But we could also spin that and say that quality sleep, or this sleep journey, if you will, has led us to things like yoga and meditation and a gratitude journal, like you mentioned. Like those are things worth celebrating as well. Okay, let's do just another quick roundtable. And so tell me, what has been, I'm just going to list 5 things. Tell me what has been most effective for you in improving your sleep. So number 1 is paying attention to healthy sleep habits or sleep hygiene. Sometimes. I take a bath every night and that really helps. Number 2 is therapy for insomnia, like Francesca mentioned, the cognitive behavior therapy.
Haven't tried it.
I haven't tried that.
Yeah.
but I'm really curious, and I'm going to. You're my inspiration. Number 3 is anything over the counter medications. That would include the magnesium.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alcohol or cannabis?
CBD oil?
Yes, CBD oil as well. I struggle with that. I know. I love my glass of wine, but it's wreaking havoc on the quality of sleep that I get, and I know it. And prescription medications.
I'm going to give it a middle thumbs up.
Middle thumbs up.
Yeah.
And those of you at home who are joining us, if you want to tell us what is the most effective at improving your sleep, I also want to take this moment to remind everyone that we launched the fall 2021 Menopause Chicks survey this week. So you can go to, I can give you the URL. It's surveymonkey.com/r/menopause chicks, or find the link in the comments, and you can answer those questions there as well. I think it's very helpful that we have these insights from all of our members. You are being the voice for women navigating perimenopause to menopause and beyond. So I thank you for doing that. I would really like to take the final few minutes, if you will, and find out, what do you think is missing in the sleep conversation and sleep health paradigm for women navigating this phase of life? Claire, you're nodding. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. What do you think is missing?
I'm still in process of that because I take herbals that really do work. The Three Sisters, passion flower, valerian root, and hops, which also has clinical studies of being very effective. And they work for me also. But why did the gabapentin work is one of the questions I'm asking. And specifically, I was getting those vibrations in my body, just a very uneasy feeling that the herbals couldn't quite get to. The herbals got me to about 5 to 6 hours of sleep pretty consistently, but I wanted more. And I also, when I described that really comfy feeling in my body, I wanted that back. For some reason, the gabapentin was the little kicker that got me there. Now I do take breaks. I'm currently taking it, but I do take breaks just to check in and see how I'm doing. And after about 4 days, some of the vibrations start coming back. So I want to know, why is that working? Did the lack of sleep going on for too long, did it do nerve damage, is one of my questions. Does the shift in hormones, is it so strong when you don't have it nutritionally supported? Because my adrenals were not nutritionally supported like they should have been. Did I do damage in that process? Because as someone mentioned, I think you did, Shirley, that it's nerve medicine, and it's also used for fibromyalgia, itchy skin, different things that doctors don't know exactly why it works. But why is it giving me back these feelings? And I do hope to be free of it one day, completely. But those are the questions I ask. What took place? Was it so dramatic a shift on my body that it did need some support to get back to a natural rhythm?
Yeah, I would be curious around that too, and asking. I mean, we've all read, right, the side of the label that says may cause drowsiness. So it's like on almost absolutely every prescription medication may cause drowsiness, and that's why I would be encouraging members like you, Claire, to just ask more. Peel back the layers of the onion questions. You know, what is the best sleep medication for me to be taking at this time in my life? And then explaining your health goals too, about whether it's a short-term goal or a long-term goal. Yeah. Francesca, what do you think is missing in the sleep paradigm?
So for me, it's just, like I said before, I was going through a period this whole summer where I was sleeping great. I wasn't using anything. I went to bed, got up, and, the only thing that changed was I was on hormone replacement therapy. And, we were going back and forth with the doctor. I had to increase my progesterone, and, I get my blood work every 3 months. So we found that sweet spot. And for like I said, 4 or 5 months, it was amazing. And then August hit. And for some reason, I don't know if it's a mental thing, but I just couldn't sleep. I went back to that cycle again where I can't fall asleep. And then it was like, I wake up I fall asleep, then I wake up in the middle of the night. So I'm just curious to find out, why does that happen? Why is that happening to me? And so that's something I'm talking with my therapist. And my daughter actually mentioned CBT therapy because she's studying it in school, and she was like, you should try it. And I thought, well, that's somebody's, I've got this stigma. That's somebody who's got mental health issues. And I'm like, I don't have any mental health issues, but really it's got nothing to do with it. Your mind is racing. And I thought, well, that's not happening to me. I'm able to sleep at night, but, so I'm trying this, but I don't understand why I just go to bed and all of a sudden my heart starts to beat and I've got all this anxiety. Like I'm not really thinking of anything. I'm just getting into bed and all of a sudden my heart starts to beat. So those are the kind of things I'm trying to figure out. And maybe that's the therapy. That's the breathing. That's what's addressing it. But I was doing that before too. So I'm beside myself because this has been 15 years of trying everything. I've tried even CBD. I've tried, melatonin. I've tried everything, valerian. But the gabapentin sounds interesting. And the only thing I can say about that is I know my mom takes it and she takes it as a pain, but she does get tremors. And sometimes I do get like twitching, and sometimes I get twitching myself, the twitches, and that could be magnesium, but I've taken it, I've addressed it, low in magnesium. It also is fatigue. So it's muscle fatigue, and I don't know why that's happening, but I don't know if that's also part of my sleep. So that's where I'm at, really. I'm trying to keep an open mind, just trying to understand why, I thought, oh, the hormone therapy is working. Great. That's probably what I was missing for the last 10 years. But it seems to me that, yep.
Well, hormone therapy could be a whole other session that we could do maybe next week. But I do want to leave you with this thought because it's a thought process that somehow has been planted in women's minds that hormone therapy is a magic wand. And unlike other prescriptions, it is not a magic wand or a one and done solution because our own hormones continue to fluctuate. And so it's a protocol that constantly needs tweaking and reviewing. And it could be, and I'm not trying to diagnose, but just to give you some questions to ask, it could be time to review. That are you taking the right hormones? Are you taking them at the right doses? Or has something changed in your body's ability to absorb the hormones? Because I know women will often have to change the mode of delivery. So those are important things to remember too, especially when you are so in tune with listening to your body. Like my sleep was great and now it's not. I wonder what has changed. So, and you had mentioned earlier too about the need for more increased awareness and education too.
Yes.
Yeah. What would you like to see in that area?
I think doctors, for instance, they need to get educated. My daughter will kill me because she's studying medicine, but doctors need to educate themselves. I tell her all the time. They need
Thank
to educate
goodness
themselves.
She's studying medicine.
Yeah. Well, they only seem to study the female body, maybe a quarter of the whole time, but anyway, I do believe that you need to educate them when it comes to sleep, when it comes to like just giving a, trazodone or some sort of pill. They always associate that with maybe, are you depressed? Or there's a lot of things that can happen. So I think that doctors need to educate themselves. And also there has to be some sort of strategy. Like everybody thinks everybody's getting wonderful sleep, and maybe 8 hours of sleep is good for somebody, but 6 hours is good for somebody else. And I think that needs to be addressed as well. Everybody seems to think that you have to have 8 hours of sleep. And no, as we age, we need less sleep. It's fact. I mean, we do sleep less. God forbid if I can get I'm happy with 5 hours of sleep. I'm good. I can do it. But I think they need to educate, doctors need to educate. And I think people need to inform themselves more about sleep and ways of improving. And I think, our lives have changed significantly than the last 30, 40 years. I mean, you've got social media, and you're constantly, like we even address like blue light therapy, people sleeping at night and they're reading, their iPads, and
Yes.
that's not good. And I don't think people are aware of that. So, just constantly being engaged, and I think that our minds are constantly bombarded, and I think we need to kind of sit back and give ourselves time to reflect and meditate. And so those are strategies, but people need to learn more about that. And there's nothing wrong. There shouldn't be a stigma if you got issues from a mental perspective. If you can't fall asleep, if you've got things going through your mind, they associate that. So those are the things that I think,
I agree.
as a
And
community.
I'm going to add to your education idea. Definitely, there can be more education and awareness with our healthcare professionals. I am of the mind that we also need to instill this power with women themselves, because I bet you can all relate to a couple of examples. One, you're not sleeping well and you decide to go to your doctor to have a conversation, but there's a baby crying in exam room number one, and there's a construction worker who got cut on the job site and needs stitches in exam room number two. And you're sitting there, and the story you're telling yourself is, oh, it's just my sleep.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing here? This isn't important. So we have to shift that paradigm and really prioritize the sleep conversation with our healthcare provider. And to what you were all explaining so eloquently just a few minutes ago, explaining the impact. So I used to be a good sleeper. Now I wake every day at 3 a.m. and it's impacting my relationship, or it's impacting my ability to go to work. I'm calling in sick one day a week. That will get a healthcare professional's attention because they love to hear that impact story. The other thing that I was going to mention and I love that your daughter's studying medicine,
Yeah.
is that women are notorious for attacking important conversations onto the end of a health appointment. So they go for their pap test. That doctor has scheduled 10 to 15 minutes for that. And then at the very end, they bring up something like sleep. And sleep is a big conversation, as we've just been, proving in the last 48 minutes. And there isn't enough time in that appointment to have a conversation. Well, what are your sleep goals? How is it impacting your life? What's on the menu of options for you? What have you tried? What are you interested in? That's another health appointment. So I invite all of you that are listening to put your own name at the top of the to-do list and book an appointment just to talk about that. But I want to finish this round table. Karen, I'd love to hear what your ideas are, or what you think is missing in the sleep conversation.
I think, and as I kind of said before, this may just be me, but just a more holistic approach. I really appreciated the purpose of Mokita when you put it together, that there were different chapters from different people that are looking at the whole perimenopause and menopause journey, and sleep is part of that. There were just so many more options that I hadn't thought about.
Thanks, Karen. Gina, ideas or what's missing?
I think what's missing is your doctor just making it a priority in the conversation, just asking you, how are you sleeping? What is your quality of sleep? My doctor has never asked me that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. When I talk about the hormone balance pyramid, what's at the top? They eat, move, sleep, manage stress. I mean, most of the doctors that I've interacted with, they don't ask that proactively. But when I say doctor, I'm referring to my family doctor, my GP. My naturopath begins every conversation. We only talk about that level for the most part. So to Karen's point, it really does depend who you have invited onto your health team. Wow, it's 5 o'clock on the West Coast. And we had allocated an hour. This has been amazing. I love all of the comments. I can't wait to go through them all. Thank you, everyone, for chiming in and sharing your sleep story. Is there one takeaway or one message that you have for members of the Menopause Chicks community that you want to leave us with today?
I'll chime in. I keep trying. Just keep trying different herbals. As Francesca mentioned, mindfulness, giving yourself permission to go on this journey, but don't give up. It's not hopeless, and that's the main thing that I find, that the doctors, I just kind of have to preface by saying the 5 doctors that I talk to, because it's not a disease, they don't really have a remedy for you. So they might just throw some, antidepressants. So I had to go on my journey. I did find a DO and a holistic doctor to work with, but still it's been a lot of my own research. And so sharing with one another, but keep trying.
That is really good advice. Thank you so much. And thank you, Claire, for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
Francesca?
I would agree with what Claire had to say. I've been at this for 15 years. Just keep at it and do your research and be prepared and challenge your doctor. In such a way that, I remember my first visit, I'll share with you. The first thing she said to me was, well, why don't you just have a shot and go to bed? That was basically what she said to me after the 3rd or 4th time I visit her, because she went and sent me through so many different avenues. But that's not a solution. So, and that really put me into another situation. But anyway, I just say, don't give up. There's, everything, there's so many different ways that, like you said, one person, it might help one person. It could work for one person. It may not work for the other. So you just got to keep trying and don't give up. And look, I'm finding there's hope. That's all I can say. And just keep at it.
Love it. Thank you for sharing your story with us tonight. I really appreciate it. Karen, one takeaway.
I would just echo what has already been said. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Karen. And Gina?
I feel empowered. This is empowering, knowing that you have this community of people that is feeling the exact thing that you're feeling. There's answers out there. I don't even want to go to my doctor after this conversation. I just want to stay right here and go through everybody's comments or the guides, and just empowered is the word I'm taking away tonight.
Good.
That's amazing. Thank you, Gina. Thank you for joining us tonight. You are all so strong and smart and inspiring to all of us. So I could sit and have this conversation all night, but I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for volunteering your time and your stories. Thanks, everyone, for chiming in with your comments. I will be going through those in the next hour or so. And everybody, go have a good sleep.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.